We are going to talk to one of the top really public related thinkers in all of remote work. John O'Dwyn, I was able to introduce you at Nomad City in November. You know, you are a veteran of this speaking circuit. We go way back, don't we? It's just such a pleasure to see you, and what a great way to close out the day.
All right. Well, good morning or evening, depending on which time zone everyone is in. And nice to see you again, Denny. Always a pleasure. I like the shirts.
Thanks. Nice shirt too. I'll be back in about 20 minutes for our last Q&A of the day.
Okay, sure. So for everyone who's here, there's been a lot of obviously negative stuff going on in the news. I thought it'd be interesting to actually look at some of the positives as well, because there are actually some. So we'll talk about that. Let's start with some basics. I want to make sure everyone is actually thinking and talking about the same thing here, because it's not always clear that everyone is talking about the same thing. So first things first, COVID-19 is a pandemic. It's bad. This is going to be happening for a while. We get people talking about days or weeks, but actually it's more likely to be measured in months or a year or more. I say that to say make sure we're actually clearly thinking about what we're going to do here. So we're clearly not just thinking it's going to be over in a day. The other thing is that that means we need to plan long term, which also means we need to keep in mind these things are actually tricky and hard even for people who are already used to working this way. There's a lot of social disruption. You know, if you're used to having a particular pattern of how you work, or your family operates at schools or partners and their offices, this is all changed now. And so what is going on here? This is a real thing for everybody to watch out for. So just being aware of that, it's actually hard, even if you think, oh, well, I should already be able to do this. Know that it's hard, and it's not just you. When I say it's not just you, here's some data just to show you. In the United States, this data just came out a couple of days ago. So this shows unemployment rates for the United States going back. In this case, this graph goes back to 2007. The previous record for unemployment claims was 695,000 in 1 week in October in 1982. The last 4 weeks have all been over 3 million each week. That's a lot of people. You can see the red lines on the right. This is actually off the charts in the literal sense. If you have that kind of pattern going on for that number of people, that's going to impact somebody you know, if it doesn't already impact you. That's going to be a concern, not just for your company, but every industry, not just your industry. So this is a big deal, much bigger deal. Give you some examples here. One of them is in the United States here, there's a car insurance company called AAA, and they do car insurance. They're having to give a return because of the way the rules are set up. They have to give a 20% refund back to their members because members are not driving, which means members are not getting into accidents as well. But that's something they're not really planning on spending. Another one is in Ireland, in Dublin. They've had basically a collapse of the Airbnb market. The tourism market stopped overnight, which means anyone who's bought properties to rent them out as Airbnb is now suddenly trying to find a way to rent them out as long-term rentals instead of Airbnb, all at the same time. So since the beginning of March, they've had a 64% increase in available rental properties, new properties added for rental. That's a huge jump in availability in the rental market, which in fact also disrupts the rental market. For better or for worse is another conversation, but these are massive changes in the rental markets in housing. In Germany, 30% of travelers to Berlin go there for the nightlife and nightclubbing, all of which are closed. That's 9,000 people out of business, and $1.6 billion in lost revenue, billion with a B, lost revenue in Berlin. Some people are trying to be inventive and come up with being DJs who can do streaming for people who want to dance at home. But that impacts the economy of Berlin. If you're into events in the tech industry, Facebook has canceled all events that have more than 50 people in them, right? That's basically all of their trade show events. They're all canceled until June 2021. So that's 15 months from now. And just to give you a scale of travel impact, TSA is the airline security, airport security people here in the United States. And the number of people that they would normally handle today would be 2.3, 2.4 million. They actually handled 0.1 million. Nobody's actually getting on planes, which means nobody's getting into Airbnbs, no one's getting into taxis, Uber, Lyfts, going to restaurants at events. This is impacting across the board. So it is definitely not just you. It is worth keeping in mind, though, that you do actually have valuable skills. If you're on this call, you are likely someone who's already comfortable working online, doing work with other people that you're not physically beside. And actually, that is a valuable skill. The catch is you have to go find people who are not in that space and talk with them. You'd be surprised how much help you can actually do. And you can help people with those skills in ways you didn't expect. And you can help them far more than you thought possible. In fact, you could help them stay in business, which in turn will help the economy later. So I put together, here's 4 examples just to show, rather than just give a speech, here's 4 concrete examples of things where I've actually been doing these things. So one of them is teachers and professors. If you know how to set up video calls, it's fine, good. Now try setting up a video call with 28 people who are all under the age of 10. Think about that for a second. Now, if you can do that, you can actually start running school classrooms, and you can show the teacher how to do it and how to handle it. How about with 40 or 50 bored teenagers? Maybe you could, if you could do that, you can show university professors. Being able to do this means meeting with the teachers or the professors, showing them how to install software, configure hardware, talking them through how to do this. I've been able to do this remotely with a couple of different teachers and professors so far. Every one of them has taken time to learn because they want to learn how to continue to do their job. They just don't know how to use these new tools that are actually second nature to me because I'm on video calls all the time. So how do you do this? Well, go meet with them, or get on a video call, get on a phone call, then get on a video call with them. And then once you have one-on-one calls, show them how to set up invites. Show them how to set up security settings so that they don't get Zoom bombed. Show them how to do screen sharing. Once they're comfortable with that, then try doing something like having yourself and a group of friends join a fake classroom with them where they set up the invite and invite your friends as fake students and they'll teach a class. See if they can rehearse how to do everything. What you're really doing is showing them how they can do their job in this new environment. And that's helping one person, but every one of those that you help then helps 28 to 50 children keep going to school, that keeps learning. They also keep their social structure because they see their friends that they went to school with. They now have that common ongoing contact with their friends. And every one of those kids that's in school, online, learning in classrooms, is helping the parents who are in the same house be able to work while the kids are in school. So helping these do what you think is normal and easy has a great multiplier effect. The other thing you could try is small businesses. I'm in San Francisco, and around here I've been talking with like a local accounting firm, local stores that are helping set up so that if they sell food and They cannot let people in to buy food, so they have food that's going off, but they actually have a way to take phone orders and track that, and showing them how they could actually take phone orders and take payments online, and helping them be set up for online payments, not with a fancy website, but something that just works today, and then you can actually help scale it tomorrow. That's really, really good, because that means that store is able to pay its staff, which means that they all keep their jobs and they don't end up on that scary looking graph that I showed you a few slides ago. You can also show people how to teach online. So I've had people who are teaching English as a foreign language through to people who are teaching music online on video calls, all of which is using the existing tools and techniques that you know how to do because you've been working online. It's new to them, it's not new to you. A third example is actually finding people who work in government, and this can be tricky and depending on which country you're in and what the policies and politics are where you are. But if you know people who are in your neighborhood who actually work in government, find them and talk with them, like call them up, say hi, and ask them, how can you help? And listen. Most of these government agencies have what they call telework policies, which are policies which allow government employees to work outside of an office for a day or so or under exceptional circumstances, and usually has a high level of wanting to make sure that you really are working on the thing you're supposed to be working on and you're not pretending to be working but not. And they're very rarely used. And this scenario where entire departments have to go from less than 1% teleworking to fully 100% teleworking is disruptive. And also to do it for a long time is also disruptive. So instead, help them. Explain what VPN means. Show them how to use Slack. Show them how to use security settings on some of the systems that they have to use, like on their video, if they have to do video calls. Help them avoid common mistakes. Give them confidence they can keep doing their job. More to the point, help them keep doing their job so that the services they provide keep turning. So the people in your neighborhood who need those services, like prescription renewal, medication approvals, or retirement pension payments, or medical benefits for military personnel, they actually still get very boring paperwork going through the system, and paychecks and approvals and medical renewals keep showing up because people need those, especially in a time of drama. So that's number 3. And that's actually, again, just doing what you already know how to do. Example number 4 is a bit more of an edge case, but it's worth calling out because there's such a wide, diverse population here on this conference. If you are a specific skilled techie in specific areas, there are, at least in the US, there are organizations that are bringing people together to help update some of the computer systems being used by these government humans. Some of these computer systems are over 40 years old and have not been updated in that amount of time. So they are not handling this extra surprise load very well. What does that mean? If you happen to have the right skills for the right set of things, you could end up helping deal with some of these complicated systems. Some states have had to only allow people to apply for unemployment benefits depending on the last letter of your surname, because there's so many people applying that it's overwhelming the system. And even that idea of saying on Tuesdays only people from A to M, and on Wednesdays everyone from N to Z, that kind of breakout helps, but it doesn't really solve the problem. The problem is that the servers are overloaded, and reworking that takes engineering skills. They also have a need for people who can go through a ton of data and wrangle some data science in here and figure out what's going on, both in terms of COVID, in terms of widespread unemployment, in terms of where to put food kitchens, all sorts of things like that. If you happen to have those skills, they're badly needed. They're not as visible as like doctors and medical skills, but still. And if your country does not have something like this, you can start one. This was just a bunch of volunteering, and it's easy to do. So um, that's that. In terms of what else? I say this because I want to wrap with reminding people you have valuable skills. Now, having those valuable skills, you can use those skills to keep your local businesses running. Just doing what you know how to do already. Every one of those that you keep running helps keep a little bit of your local economy going, which in turn is going to help with the economy after all this is over. So I'd end by just saying, thank you for helping.
So, John, one question I have for you, and maybe one reason why you're making this point. It sounds like, in an economic sense, you feel as if remote workers will have a better opportunity, existing remote workers will have a better opportunity to have their work uninterrupted, during the global shutdown, during the existing recession, and whatever will follow. It sounds like you feel that the companies that remote workers work for and the roles remote workers were in will be less affected in a large scale sense.
Well, less in a relative term. They're all, what I was trying to say somewhere in the middle of there, one of the slides, I don't know if you saw it, is like basically everyone's going to be disrupted. Like you
Right.
cannot have record-setting numbers of unemployment, not just like a little bit record-setting, but like 8x, 10x above the previous recorded peak ever in history, and then do that again the next week, and then do that again the next week. Like that's big. So everyone's going to be impacted. The point I wanted to make here is that it is easy to go into doom and gloom phase. And like, it's the end of the known universe. There's no good will happen of all this. And actually, we all instinctively have skills that we routinely use that we could use to help people who don't know how to do this. So I guarantee everyone's business is being disrupted in some form. Mine is. Everyone else's is.
Absolutely.
And you can help the people who are stuck, who are offline, who are still trying to do something local, who would not be your normal current customer, who really need your help right now. So find your local shoe shop and help them figure out how to still be able to do shoe repairs. Right? Find your local supermarket and get them online so they can actually still sell food, which means farmers can still sell food. It also means people can still eat. Right. Otherwise, they're stuck with stores that are closed and they can't sell food, or they're stuck with staff being at risk of getting sick because they're exposed to people coming into the store. So you can really turn around the economy that way. And we have that ability.
We might have a little bit of an echo. I think that's coming, John, on your side. But it sounds like I'm echoing through a little bit, but that's okay, as long as, well, there you go. Whatever it was, it's gone now. Are you able to hear me?
I hear you fine. I didn't touch anything. Yeah.
It's the end of the day. I think our system is a little bit tired here as well. So what has to happen for that paradigm shift, right? For people to have to start thinking about not only how do I help myself, right, but how do I help the entire economic environment that I'm involved in?
I think the first thing, and that was one of the punchlines I use a lot, is we need to each get out of our echo chambers. We all talk, you and I've met before, and I've seen a bunch of the other speakers who are here today. Now, so there's a lot of people who are in the kind of online work, remote work, distributed work field who know each other. Well, when was the last time someone here talked to the founder of a supermarket, or the founder of a local mom and pop shop on a corner, on a street corner, and said, hey, can I help get you online, or can I help show you how to work online? It's interesting when you talk to people like that, they actually don't know where to start. They don't even know what's possible, and they assume that everything must be super, super expensive and totally beyond their price range. And it's like, oh, you can do this for free, and you can do this for $15 a month. You can do this for X. They're like, wait, what? But I don't know how to use that. Where could I find someone who can show me how to do this? Well, we happen to have a whole bunch of people who are routinely good at this. So getting outside your echo chamber is the answer.
One question, one thing that's been done pretty extensively, and we'll get to the other questions here. I just want to ask this first, is the pre-buying of goods or services from closed businesses, right? Is that helpful? Is that beneficial, or is that just a Band-Aid, really?
So this is where you need probably a professional economist on this one. I think it certainly helps with some cash in the door. Like if you're talking like buying gift cards.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Right. So you're talking about, so you go to your local merchant online and you buy like some amount of money from them in terms of gift cards. That's great. They actually get some income, which certainly is better than nothing. But you can only do that a couple of times before you're up to your teeth in gift cards. Right? And maybe you do it, but who else in your neighborhood doesn't do it? Whereas if you can actually get, like there's one vendor, merchant here in San Francisco, they usually make courier bicycle bags. And they've just switched last week or 2 weeks ago. They're now making face masks. But they cannot sell them in store, which is what they used to sell. So now they sell them all online. So they've had to work through the mechanics of how do they do that. And they had been able to do some online sales before, and now they're really having to change to a lot of customized products online. And it's a different market for them, and it's a different way of, but it's a refocusing that they have to do to stay in business.
Yes.
So I think if you can get them online and doing their normal business online is more profitable and more sustainable long-term than here's a short-term float of some percentage of customers who are buying some amount of gift cards.
Cool. I appreciate that. Okay, my questions are done. Let's get to the good questions. We have about 8 of them. We got about 13, 14 minutes left here, John.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on opportunities / major changes for the labor market of today, which this questioner identifies as the next 3 months, and tomorrow, the next 12 months to get a job? How is the labor market going to change for the next 3 months, and then over months 4 through 12, we'll call it?
I don't have a working crystal ball, and I'm not trying to be flippant when I say that. I do think that every one of us should be very honest with ourselves that we're not immune to it. There is going to be significant disruption for all of us. And I think just having that kind of take a deep breath and sit quietly in the corner and talk to yourself for a minute and think about it. It's like, what kind of disruption can you survive and how? Like that's going to happen for all of us. So your job has changed now for everyone. What it'll change to is an open question, but it has changed. So come to terms and make peace with that. I think the second part is what type of jobs, which is I think the other part of the question here. There's definitely going to be a change, like people who are working on large-scale events, like one of the slides I had was about Facebook postponing all major events till mid-2021. So if your job was in the events business in a major metro area, that's going to be a hard situation for a while. And even if it's not major events, people are going to be uncomfortable just getting on a crowded subway or a crowded bus for a long time. So that kind of density is going to change a lot of human dynamics. Having said that, there might be other events that can be organized, like the people who organized this one here, like Igor and Liam and those. Like this is a different event. It would have taken a lot of cash, a lot of carbon impact to make all these people come together. And it happened online, and it's all, it's accessible because it's free, and then there's donations to Red Cross. It's all good. So they're having to rethink their business model to that. So online events, online training, helping people, and the reason I had my talk, helping people who are not used to working online get comfortable working online, because we need all sorts of skills in society. There's people who are learning how to do weddings online this week. That just got announced a couple of days ago as New York State. So help
no,
them.
an excellent response. Thanks so much, John. Where do you think remote work is going to be in 1 year from now? This question has been asked a lot, and I think everyone really values the opinion of different experts in the field. What do you think?
Well, I personally, sorry, personal rant, I actually don't like the word remote because it implies someone is all-important center and someone else is the remote second-class peon. So I always say that we're a distributed team, and I think actually society will just stop using the word remote because we'll all be distributed. That's just the way it's going to be. Watch also real estate and events and logistics and travel. This is a massive change to society.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so. I'll be amazed if you can find me a company that is not in some way distributed in a year's time.
Wow, what a prognostication to close out the day.
Right. Unless it's with a disclaimer, unless they're doing something that's physical, hands-on. Like if you have to bolt a door to a car, you have to be there. Or if you have to, if you have to be a brain surgeon, you have to be there. I mean, I know there's robots and things coming for that, but right now we still do brain surgery by hand, which means you got to be there. But if you exclude that, it'll be very, very, very distributed.
Yeah, and that really ties into the next couple questions, which are tactically, how do I as a remote company grow through this, or are we permanently changing our economy forever? Do you think remote will be the new normal? Actually, I'll ask that one as a follow-up. But yeah, I mean, the follow-up is this going to change the economy permanently as well?
Yeah. And I think that one of the slides I showed, it's already changed the economies of things like the nightclub scene in Berlin, the rental markets in Dublin and Ireland and in San Francisco, and in events and in just air travel and tourism. It's changed them in ways that you would have lost money on a bet a year ago, right? And I don't think it'll ever go, well, I don't want to say never. It will take a long time for people to get comfortable getting back into crowded buses and airplanes.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my key questions, is when are the techno clubs going to be open again in Berlin? I like some good electronic music, and I think I'm going to have to wait a while.
Yeah, I know you. Yes, you may have to wait, but there's this DJ who's streaming all of his shows that he used to run. So
thousands of them are streaming. One good example in the chat, Armin said telemedicine, right? That telemedicine, especially in the US, was pretty inaccessible before the crisis, and that will be something that we could see for a long time. It's the prevalence of telemedicine.
Yep. Yeah, actually, telemedicine has an interesting perk on it. This is, I mean, again, there's a lot of quote, quote, negatives, but in terms of positives, people are forced to try something new. And having people try telemedicine, up to now, that was always regarded as something you could do for rural communities that were far from a doctor. Now there's people I know personal friends who are using telemedicine with their doctor in downtown San Francisco. And the doctors actually like it because they have less thrashing around dealing with cancellations and then waiting for someone who doesn't show up or whatever. And people who, just to knock out some stereotypes, we're looking at people who are in their 80+ age range who are trying telemedicine for the first time and loving it. So there's actually a lot of change happening there.
It'll just be great for me to never have to wait in the doctor's waiting room. A great question from Tim Burgess, who's a great gentleman in our space as well. What countries will be least affected by this? Wow.
Least affected
the pandemic, in terms least affected economically by the pandemic.
I don't know. I do know I saw an interview with Bill Gates, which is not quite answering Tim's question. Good question. I'm not quite answering it, but Bill Gates came out with he thought the human cost in terms of injury and death and that would be much higher outside of what we traditionally would call developed versus developing, like the kind of Western Europe and North America, be much higher in places. For example, they're actively worried about Africa right now, and Central America, and you know, personally, I'm watching India as well. These are like places with a lot of people, and it's very hard to quote social distance when you have that many people in that much space. Part one, and then part two, it's very easy to quickly overrun the entire medical infrastructure if it scales out of hand. So the health impact is highest. I'm sorry, I'm not
No,
really
it's
answering
such a
Tim's
difficult question, right? I mean, that would require like a deep economic analysis to determine which countries would be the least. You and Tim, you guys can take this one together offline. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll follow up with them.
So here's a nice comment. Hi, John. Thanks so much for your presentation. Very interesting. And that's 2 exclamation points, by the way. In what degree do you think companies are going to be more open to 100% remote work? So I think this differentiates this differentiates on the question and your response about the prediction for remote work being prevalent in most companies. But will that be 100% remote work, or will it be 1 day per week at home? You know, how do you see that? How do you see that shaking out?
Right. Yeah, the whole part-time remote versus full-time remote. Yeah. I think until it's one thing for a government or a policy ruler, like whether it's a governor or a president or a premier or a prime minister or whatever, to say, okay, all businesses are open, you can go back to normal. At some point, people are not going to feel comfortable. So they might have to wait a while. So even if all those decrees were made tonight, people might take weeks or months before they actually start comfortably just going back to old way of living. So there's some sort of time there. And I think that's measured in months. I don't think it's going to be a long time before we see people going to crowded arenas, to nightclubs in Berlin, to soccer stadiums, which means also getting into crowded subways at rush hour, which means, that's a long way to answer the question, I don't think 1 day a week is an option or 2 days a week. It's like people working from home 5 days a week routinely for months is what we're looking at. And at some point they may want to do a gathering where the people meet for a day, maybe. But it's pretty much 100% remote across the board, unless you're doing something physical that you need to be there, like brain surgery or attaching doors. So I think it's going to stay like that until we get into like post-pandemic, like vaccination coverages and all that kind of stuff, which is
ways away here. Yeah,
not my specialty yet.
Just to close out, someone says, is it possible to get a copy of these slides? I'm super inspired and I would love to follow through with some of these ideas. You are an inspiration, John.
Thank you, whoever said that. And yes. Let me figure out how to do that, and yes, I will do that. Probably either on my blog, which is odin.com, or on LinkedIn. I'll figure it out. Thankfully, I have a unique enough surname, you'll find me.
Yeah,
recording this as
yeah,
well,
and
right?
I'd like to encourage everyone, if you don't mind, John,